Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. I'm talking to the co-founder of Granite Towers Equity Group. And what they do is they help people to create multiple streams of passive income through multifamily real estate investing. So I'm excited to be rocking out today with Dan Brisse. Hey, Danny, you ready to rock?
I am ready to rock. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, first question, we always start off on a good note. Tell me a story of success that we can be inspired by.
Yeah. My background, like many of your listeners, I grew up with big dreams as a kid. I wanted to be a professional snowboarder. And so I spent my entire high school career doing decent in school and spending all my time at the hill. I grew up in Minnesota, snowboarding day after day, month after month, year after year. After I graduated from high school, I moved to Salt Lake City with a group of five guys, and we were all in pursuit of creating a snowboarding career. My parents loved me and supported it, but they were not able to help financially. So I was working at Blockbuster at night and snowboarding every day during the day. Um, my typical meals would be peanut butter and jelly for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so it was pretty slim pickings as far as finances go, but I was very dedicated and focused on my snowboarding career. I thought after moving out to Salt Lake City, I'd be a professional snowboarder within a year. I realized that's not the case. I had a lot further to go than I thought. Came back year two, thought I'd be a pro snowboarder, eating peanut butter and jelly, working at Payway, and nothing happened. Year three, I come back and came back a little late to the season. Got hurt 3 days after getting back to Salt Lake City, dislocated my kneecap and needed surgery, and that was the end of that year. Came back year four, and my buddy says, "Hey, you're good. You should go to Aspen, Colorado for the Aspen Open." And I'm thinking, that sounds awesome. I'd love to go to Aspen, but you know me, I'm broke, eating peanut butter and jelly, working at TGI Fridays, bussing tables. And this guy believed in me, and he's like, "Hey, I'll take you there, and I will enter you into the contest. And if you win, pay me back. If you don't win, you got nothing to lose." So, with that said, we cruised to Aspen. He paid for this entry fee, and there were like 225 up and coming kids that were the best of the best at that time. And the way it works is you get two runs. If you finish top 10, you go to finals. If you don't, you're done. Ended up finishing sixth on the qualifier day. Came back for the finals day, and I don't know what happened to the other guys, but the grace of God, I ended up winning this contest. And I ended up having a 15-year run as a professional snowboarder, traveling the world, and ended up being in X Games six times. I got a couple gold medals, couple silver medals, and just was a total dream come true. And so, that would be the success story of my life from a younger guy, and we can transition after that if you want to go wherever you want to go from there.
It's an incredibly good story. That's awesome. So you
Thank you.
you did it. You
Yeah,
actually hit that goal.
yeah. Yeah, I think one thing that I would consider myself to have a superpower, and I don't have many. I was average at best at school, mediocre. Didn't want to really be there. But one superpower I do have is getting really clear on what I want to create and just not quitting. And I'd say for, folks that are listening here, if there's one piece of advice I could give after getting to know many top professional snowboarders in the industry and becoming really some of my best buddies, they all went an inch wide, a mile deep. They did not go a mile wide, an inch deep. It was very, very laser focused for a long period of time. And I just can't stress enough how that relates to business as well. So, and the reality is when I was at the top, I got to know a lot of these hero buddies who were my good friends. They were 5 or 10 years in front of me. And it was really hard to see their careers come to an end. It was brutal, Tim. I'm telling you, like losing their wives, losing their homes, drug addiction, suicide. And so that's what really drew me in. I saw what was coming for me. And if I could be as lucky as those guys and have a career as long as they did, and do as well as them, and that's how they crashed and burned at the end. I had to do something different. So that's when I started to do everything I could to learn about the money I was making as an athlete and start to invest it into multifamily.
That is incredibly relevant. You hear this all the time about people that, especially in sports, make a boatload of money. I mean, actors do the same thing, right? Whoever is, those careers where you actually make a lot of money really quickly and then they crash and burn. Well, like, did you ever figure out like why? Like why does that seem to happen so often?
Such a great question, Tim, and I don't think it gets asked enough. I'd say most of the time it is athletes that either think it's never going to end, which is it
Okay.
flies.
Yep.
But number two is they don't know what to do with the money they make. One gentleman named Nate, I won't use his last name, but Nate ended up getting paid $2 million out of his contract at the end of his career. And he spent the next 6 months traveling around the world with his buddies doing drugs, getting tattoos,
Yeah.
back with bad habits. And he said money ruined him. And I said, it wasn't the money that ruined you, Nate. You just didn't know what to do with it. Because if you put 2
Yeah.
million bucks in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing, they might have 4 million or 6 million next year and be a free, very passionate human being. So it's not the money, it's what to do with the money.
Yeah, because I do know I actually have some people in my network that work normal jobs and are actually doing pretty good for themselves. Like probably even millionaires. I don't know. I don't ask them those questions, but doing really well. And then you see some people that make millions of dollars, per month even, and then
Mhm.
they crash and burn. And
Yeah,
it is kind of interesting that you say that because I mean I think that a lot of them do say that money ruined me,
yeah.
but I mean that can't be right. I mean you got people making money, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would love to share, what worked for me here. So as I'm seeing that, I'm seeing my future of a very sharp decline. I'm studying what to do with capital, to do with cash.
Yep.
And I learned three things that changed my life. And those three things are very simple things to do if you put a little bit of effort in. And that is, how do I create cash flow or passive income through my investments? How
Hmm.
do I hedge the dollar against inflation that is out of control? And how
Uh-huh.
do I use depreciation to reduce my tax bill legally based on how the law has been written? I didn't write the law, I didn't make the rules of the game, but the rules are intact. So if I'm going to be here and I'm going to be owning a business, I got to learn the rules by hiring a great CPA or a tax
Yeah.
accountant so they can guide me on what to do and why to do it so I can behave in a certain manner to fit into different boxes because the economy is set up very cookie cutter. It's very like once you know the name of game of Monopoly and you know the rules, it's very similar to real life. It's a great game to play for practice.
Yeah, it is. And now, and so I think, I mean, I feel like there's like three like kind of levels to this. There's the level of like what you were talking about, just not knowing what to do with the money, meaning maybe not even not knowing what to do with it. Obviously, like mismanaging it, right? Like spending it on drugs and tattoos and things that, hey, all the power to you, but that is not going to last. You are going to burn through it. And even in the regular folks that are not making millions of dollars, you know, I keep on hearing that cars are a terrible expense to get yourself into. I mean, it depreciates so quickly. So there's the not knowing what to do with your money, but then there's the middle part of like, okay, I'm not spending a whole lot of money. I'm saving a lot of money, but now it's just sitting in a, savings account. And like you say, inflation is just eating away at that, right? And
Yeah.
then there's the next level of it where, okay, now I'm going to try to make that money make more money as time goes on rather than just sitting there and losing money as time goes on, right?
Yeah, definitely. I want to break this down to make it super simple because it really is. I'd say that's one of my other superpowers is making something that appears to be complex very simple and easy to understand. So if I'm listening to this podcast right now and you're in one of those three levels, because I would agree with you, those kind of are the three levels. And if you're in the beginner level, what you really need to focus on is the habit of living below your means
Yeah.
and delaying gratification, which isn't always easy to do, but if you can start small, start with 1%, then move it to 3%, then 5%, then 10%, and eventually 20% of whatever you make, just save it. And when you get your lifestyle to that place, if you make 100 grand a year, no matter what, 20,000 is going into a savings account. The other
Yeah.
80, yeah, you got taxes, you got expenses, but you got to get your lifestyle in a place where you can start to accumulate excess cash and it'll give you freedom. It'll become fun. It'll become as
Mm.
fun or more fun than spending. See, I created a saving habit at a young age and I'm working on it with my kids. Everything they make, I just say 80% is going to savings. So I'm starting them aggressive. So maybe when they get older, they're at 50%. But
Yep.
if you get in that habit of stacking it away, now you have choice. Now you can use those funds to either invest for further, specialized knowledge, and it just gives you this nest egg that will give you a whole different perspective of life.
Yeah.
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 And then once you get to that level, now it's okay, what am I going to do? What are my passions? What am I excited about? Do I want to create passive income? Do I want to start a company? Do I need education? And you have just a lot of freedom and choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on that with my kids as well. And it's funny that you get quite a bit of pushback from people around you that, you're mean, oh, you're making them save that much money, they don't need to save that much money, let them enjoy their lives and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think that my feeling of it, and it sounds like it's yours too, is that they'll have plenty of time to enjoy that. And you know what? The earlier you start, I mean, where can you be, by even your 30s if you're saving 80% of your money, right?
Yeah, yeah, I hear that thought process, and I can't say there's the right answer for
Yeah.
everybody. I'm only speaking for me here. But what I've seen in my days is that the folks who have a ton of fun spending and going after it eventually fall on hard times and a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can either have the fun now or delay the fun. If you want to have the fun now, pain is likely coming. It's just a
Yeah.
law of the world. It's not something that Dan Brisse is creating. That's just how it seems and has occurred to me from many, 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 many people. Whereas the folks who say, you know what, I'm going to push it off a little bit and I'm going to save and I'm going to invest, their lives seem to get bigger, bigger, and bigger and more fun as time goes on. So my process for my children is more that I just do it out of love. I do it because I've seen both sides, and the side of delaying gratification, from what I've seen, tends to bring people more joy.
Yeah. No, I agree. So now, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about the bad note as well, but that's more other people's bad notes. What about you though? Like, was there something that you just like a big mistake that happened on your journey that you could share with us?
Yeah, yeah, you bet. I mean, the two biggest mistakes I can share with you guys in the listeners here is before you invest with people, get to know their business model, get to know them on a pretty intimate level, and take your time. There's no need to rush. There's no, this is the last deal, get in now. If you start hearing that, I'd run to the hills.
Yeah.
There are firms, there are companies that will help get to know you, get to know your investment goals, get you know their deals, and there will always be another deal coming.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing I would share there. And I lost a significant chunk of capital investing with a guy out of Portland who I really didn't understand his core values. He had a company that worked well, but when things got tough, things changed quickly, and it was a large chunk and a large loss and a real eye-opening lesson for me. I don't blame him. I look more at what did I do on my end as an investor who's responsible, and how do I take accountability for the decision I made to be a better and more sophisticated investor in the future. So that would be one major lesson, is take your time getting to know these folks. Another lesson that is definitely relevant, and it's more of, if you become, I would call you a professional real estate investor, is you have got to understand the tenant profile of a property or a product you're buying at a very intimate level, because these different demographics of individuals behave differently in different economic cycles. And what that simply means is that some people have core values of, I don't care what it takes, I'm paying my rent.
Hmm.
Some people have core values of, if things get tough, I don't care what it takes, I'm not paying my rent and I'm going to look for ways to get around the system. And so if you buy the different demographics based off of what I've seen data, purely speaking data, you have to understand how to underwrite these deals, which is a little bit more sophisticated and complicated. I don't think you need to get into it on this podcast,
Yeah.
but what I would go back to is get to know the track record, get to know the mistakes that companies have made if you're going to invest with them passively as an LP or a limited partner, and get to know their core values and make sure they align, and just make sure you date and take your time getting to know the folks before you jump in head first and get this pressure of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah. Wow. So much there. The first one about the, jump in now because you're gonna miss out on it. That's a huge one. I mean, I've gotten taken by that one too, where it's just like, oh, this deal's gonna go away. But I mean, I always kind of think about it like, well, if it really is this, once in a time opportunity, I'm never gonna get this again, and I'm investing in something, then it- why? I mean, I'm like, why do I have to act right now? I don't have enough time to like research this. Like, how good of a deal is this if you're not even giving me the time to look into it? And I think that what you said later, there's always going to be another deal coming. I think that's the kind of the thing that you learn eventually is that, when there's sales going on, I mean, even looking at any store, retail store you go into, yes, you can get 50% off, 80% off of your merchandise if you walk into the store today and do it. But that's going to happen next year too. It's going to happen every year. So,
Yeah.
if you don't have the time to really research this thing right now and get the information that you need in order to jump into it, then it's going to come around again. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a tactic usually.
Yeah, what I would suggest based off of my, I started buying real estate in 2012 and we started our company in 2017, Granite Towers Equity Group, and here we are in 2025 with about 3,250 units of
Wow.
multifamily. And so I just want to share that because I have a fair amount of experience here, pretty much of a decade of obsessively looking at multifamily and buying multifamily. And when we come back to the bucket of, let's say you did delay gratification, you have capital, and now you're looking, and I just shared this thing of like I invested with a guy, I didn't have the right core values, I lost the capital. When you find the right group, and this takes a little bit of effort, it might take a
Hmm.
little bit of networking. You might have to, go online and interview of companies that provide these types of investments. But, the piece that is the separator or the thing that changed my life the most is when I started to put that idle capital into an investment that started to pay me every quarter or every month. And I put 50 or 100 grand away and boom, out pumps a check. Another chunk of capital away, out pumps a check. And so for me, that was the eye-opening piece as I was a snowboarder and I could see there was an end coming. Like a lot of your listeners, there may be retirement coming. There may be an end coming to their current career, like I had. And what helped me tremendously was starting to create multiple streams of income coming back in, whether I worked or didn't work. That was the separator. Because
Yeah.
snowboarding for me, if I wanted to get paid, I had to snowboard. And it sounds like, oh, duh, like go snowboarding. But there, for what we had to do or what I was hired to do was very dangerous. It was basically risk your life. If you want to look
Yeah.
any videos up, you go onto YouTube, put my name in, and you can see what we did. Put in X Games Dan Brisse, and we were jumping buildings. We were risking our lives. So in order to transition safely without a big college backup plan degree to fall back on, I started looking for many, many ways for my money to start paying me.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, it's a smart thing to do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about practice. And I mean, you come from the sporting area, so uh, practice is important. But does that really transfer into business too? Is there practices that you can do?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with multifamily for us, I mean, it's constant practice. It's constantly refining our systems and processes. It's constantly making mistakes and saying, okay, what do we need to adjust moving forward? So, any from my perspective, and of meeting great business owners, they've been through a lot of pain. They haven't quit. They've made changes based on the lessons they've learned, and they continue to refine their processes. So, for looking at how do you hedge against inflation, for that was the other piece I learned that really changed my life was how do I get my capital into an asset that when they print more money, when inflation happens, it may benefit me. It definitely won't hurt me, but it might benefit me. And that was a different thought I never had as a kid growing up. Like I said, eating peanut butter and jelly, working at TGI Fridays when inflation would happen, I'd get a little pay increase and get excited. But I didn't know that my car gas payment went up. I didn't know that
Yeah.
I didn't know that the clothing I was buying was going up. So really, I thought I was getting paid more, but my living standard was actually getting smaller. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing that's happening across America right now that a lot of folks just aren't aware of. They're unaware that yes, their pay salary is going up, but inflation is actually rising faster. So the pay may look larger, but it's giving you less. And so that's where getting on the side of inflation, owning something that's real estate, owning a business. Inflation can actually be a beneficial thing, or at least not as painful as if you're just saving cash. And a story I would just share about that that comes to my mind is my grandma. My grandma died at 93, and she worked her ass off. Like, she had a little bit of a sad story. Her husband committed suicide when my mom was when she had five kids. Grandma had five kids that were under 12. And this woman worked her tail off, and she kept those kids safe and warm and fed. And she saved her money and worked like you wouldn't imagine. She lived as frugal as you could. And when she was, late 90s, she had a little over 90 grand in her bank account, and she had to go into a nursing home or to a assisted living facility, and that 90 grand got drained in like a 8 month period or a 9 month period. It was horrible to see. So that's a perfect example of how do you get into a situation with real assets so that when that time comes, there's plenty of excess cash to help you live the lifestyle you want to live.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And I just think I think so many people, like you say, they either don't understand it or they don't know how to get out from underneath it. I think that
Yeah.
that's the kind of the issue is you end up, and I think a lot of it has to do with that delayed gratification that you're talking about. We're just consistently being fed these messages of consume, consume, consume. You deserve it, you deserve it, you deserve it. And you've never got that extra buck to throw into something like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been fortunate to have some success in an athletic career and then have some good success owning a bunch of apartments. And I can tell you guys, from my perspective, when I buy a new truck or another new truck, it really doesn't bring that much happiness.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, like excited for a little bit, but then you're like, yeah, it's just a truck. And so I think what you're touching on, Tim, is so critical to understand is that the constant consumption, if you don't live below your means and you're constantly consuming, it's an artificial high right here, right now, but it doesn't bring long-term happiness. So, if you can make that connection in your mind's eye that you have professional marketers marketing to you every single day. These companies spend billions of dollars on why you should buy their product. And the more you buy into that and consume that, the more you're out spending. And so I think it is absolutely critical, Tim, for people to hear that and to think about that of, is this benefiting me or is it benefiting the company that keeps creating these products?
Yeah. Well, and it ends up being sort of like an addiction cycle as well, where you're looking I mean you're just constantly, in this worry about money and about
Yes.
not enough coming in, and then you go get that quick fix of like going to buy something to give you that little high of making you feel okay for a little bit.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
you say, I mean, if you delay that gratification and you focus on, just trying to, bring that money in, save it, put it into something else, well, then that constant worry about money goes away, and now you don't need that fix anymore, right?
Yes, and then at that point, ideally, you're sophisticated enough and created a couple relationships with companies that are really great at buying quality assets, and you can move that chunk of capital into an investment. Doesn't mean that you don't still control that capital. Doesn't mean your net worth went down. Just means you moved it from a bank account into an investment to start paying you residual money in passive income. And now you're in a position where you've hedged inflation because you own a piece of real estate. And then ideally, the last icing on the cake is you can qualify for depreciation. And that's a word I never heard growing up in high school. Like, what is depreciation? It sounds really complicated. It's really a simple thing, is all it is based on the law of that the tax code, the way it's written, is you're able to get a loss on paper because the government wants investors to buy and invest in real estate to take care of real estate to provide nice, clean, family safe housing. So the incentive is a tax incentive for us as investors to go buy real estate, and it gives you a loss on your K1, and that's all created through what we do here. You don't do anything. You just get the K1 and give it to your CPA or apply it to your tax return, and it shows a loss. And that loss is not real. It's just a loss on paper that you use to accelerate the depreciation or the writing off of the things that are becoming less valuable in the asset. So to keep it really simple, you put your money in, you get your passive income, you're hedging inflation, and you get a loss on paper that you can now apply to your tax return. And ideally, if you qualify correctly, you can pay less in tax legally. And doesn't mean you're still not paying tax in other areas of your life, but through your investment, you're paying less in tax.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I mean, this is complicated stuff, really, when it comes down to it. I mean, there's people that spend, like you, spend a lot of time learning all this stuff. And I think, well, you mentioned earlier, there's, when you experience a loss, maybe you invest in the wrong person or whatever it happens to be. I think that kind of discourages you, makes you a little bit worried about, oh, this stuff's a scam, I'm just going to lose my money.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier about losing money, I think that's an important mentality of like, okay, fine, somebody made a mistake, but so did you, right? You put it into that person who made the mistake, and hey, might not have been their fault, might have been their fault, who knows? But taking a bit of an accountability and thinking, okay, what did I do? Why did I do it? What could I improve? How could I vet this person a little bit better? A little bit of responsibility on that can now make you make better decisions in the future because there are people out there that are very good at this. I mean, I've
Mhm.
got a money guy, and it works really well for me. And I don't deal with any of that stuff. I don't understand it. He does, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to have that person, right?
Totally. Yeah, I think you nailed it, Tim. At the end of the day, for me, I grew up in a world that was very middle class, and I heard a lot growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees, and
Hmm.
money's not important. And you know, I do think having capital and cash is important because it part of I want to be able to drive a car that's safe. I want to be able to eat healthy food. I want to be able to
Yep.
live in a nice home to take care of my family. I want to be able to be able to travel and have some time off. So I don't buy into that saying it's not important. I'm more of of can you get a passion you love to do in life, and can you find a way to take the capital that you've earned and just start to get that return? And
Yep.
once you find somebody to help, you don't have to be the one going and finding the real estate deals. You don't need to be underwriting it. You don't need to be doing cost segregation studies and K1s. You can align with that. If any listeners here are like, I'd like to learn more, you can reach out at any time and have a conversation with our team, and you can sit in our database for 2, 3, 4, 5 years just watching what we do. And as you watch and as you're a part of it, you will learn the basics. And being a limited partner in these types of deals, it's really simple. Once you find someone you know, like, and trust, and you
Yep.
are along for the ride, there's literally nothing to do. And it's an avenue to get a little bit more out of Wall Street, or if you're heavily in stocks and you want to diversify a little bit, it's a nice way to, collect the three things: the passive income, inflation, and depreciation.
Yep. Yeah, and that's getting money to work for you. And I think we do know for the most part that that is a thing. Money
Mm.
can work for you, right? You can work and make money, and then you can get that money to work for you. And it's just you've got to find the right fit for what you want to
Yeah.
do with that money working for you, right?
That's exactly it. You nailed it. I mean, that's the whole game of what we play, is how hard and how efficient can we get our money working for us. And the way we measure that is by the return it gives us each year.
Yep.
So if you put 100,000 in and you get 20,000 back a year, that's a 20% return.
Yep.
So a pretty dang good number, from our
Oh yeah.
perspective.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you can increase that number and they're safe and it's like clockwork, that's the name of the game in order to create passive income and really create that freedom.
Yep. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what passive income is. Like what would you describe passive income as?
Yeah, great question. So passive income is I do the work once and it pays me for years.
Yep.
So my focus of my life is I'm not worried about we call it ordinary earned income or employment income, I guess you could say. Like, I work, I get paid. I work, I get paid. I'm not even thinking about that's how my snowboarding career was. I work, I get paid. I work, I get paid. Now my whole focus is how can I work one time and get paid whether I'm awake, sleeping, partying, vacation, whatever I do. And there's that chunk now that's passively coming in. I don't need to do anything for it. It just pays me. Okay,
Yep.
great. That one's set. How do I now get another nest egg of capital using my delayed gratification, put in another chunk, 50,000 over here, and how quickly and how much can I get paid from that one based off of the investment? And I want the depreciation too because it's part of the tax law. And you're
Yep.
part of the inflation because you own something real. So that's passive income. You do the work once and you get paid for years on that investment.
So now for I think probably most average people, they would think that sounds too good to be true. That sounds like a scam. So
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
what do we like how is this not a scam? Like how does it work where can everybody on the planet do this?
Yeah, so with these types of investments, the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, puts laws in place where they don't want people who don't have the understanding to invest and get taken advantage of, which is actually really safe of them to do. It's a good thing. The bad thing is you have to have a little bit of education. You have to get to know someone like us or a firm that does this to help you invest. So, um, I'd say the best way, if I'm a listener right now and you want to learn more, you don't have to
Yeah.
invest for years. You don't have to learn more. You don't have to invest for years, but get on a call with us. Get on a call with, throw it into Chat GPT. What are some great firms to invest passively in real estate with? And get on their mailing list and start seeing their deals. Start seeing what they do. Start getting on their email monthly flows. We send out a monthly update on our company every month. We have deals that come out every now and then that are in our email, and you can see deals. And then we have a webinar, and you can watch the webinar to learn about the deal. I would just start opening your eyes up to it and just proceeding with the I'm learning. I'm just in my learning stage right now. And there will come a time after you've done enough investigation, enough learning, where you'll get to know someone and say, yeah, I'm willing and ready to take my first risk with an investment. And it is a risk, but it's also a risk to keep your cash sitting in the bank because inflation's eating it up. So it's a risk either way. I look at it as more risky to keep my cash in the bank. Yes, I have some cash in the bank, but the majority of my cash is invested into different assets.
Yeah. Okay, so when you say risk, what does that mean? Could I lose all my money? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, with real estate, I'm only going to speak on multifamily
Yes.
because I don't know anything else investment. We spoke specifically on multifamily. It can happen where you buy a really horrible deal at the wrong market cycle and you do lose everything. It is very rare, it is very uncommon, but it can happen.
Yeah.
There are times where you buy into a market cycle and it's the right market cycle, right deal, and you two, three, 4x your money. That can happen. So both spectrums are possible. Um, the most likely, the most common scenario, we've done 31 deals. You'll see about a 13 to a 20% annual return. Part of it coming from cash flow, passive income, part of it coming from value increase of owning the real estate over a 3 to 5 year period. So that's how it works. You say, up, I like this deal. I like this syndication firm. I'm going to put my capital in with them. And I am going to now be tuning into monthly updates of what's happening on that deal throughout every month. We send an update on the first of the month and you'll see exactly how your deal that you're invested in, how it's doing. You'll get the financial statements. You can comb through all the income and expenses if you want. You'll get a CapEx update, which is just the value add work we're doing. We might upgrade the exterior by painting it. We might put in new countertops. We might upgrade the pool. So you'll see that along the way, and you'll get updates on distributions. And that's it as a limited partner. You're just literally along for the ride. You're a partner and owner of the real estate with nothing to do.
So now, because of the potential risk there, I would assume that this is money that is kind of like locked away. You've got to sort of figure out that I don't need this money for any, short-term use or anything like that. You've got to be comfortable enough with potentially losing that money, right?
Yeah, I would say in your mind's eye, you're thinking 3 to 5 years, these funds are potentially locked up.
Yeah.
And you can return them sooner through a refinance or because the market goes crazy and we can exit. That may happen, but I would just think 3 to 5 years of these funds are going to be working for me. And so another side of that is that a lot of our investors don't want their capital back because when we turn a deal and make them money, now they got a tax problem because we just made them capital gains. And now they're saying, hey, Dan, thanks, nice job. But the problem is my 100 is now 200 grand and my
Yeah.
200 grand, I got to pay tax on and B, I got to find a place for it because it can't sit in my bank account. So
Yeah.
getting your money back isn't always like the goal. Yes, you want returns and you just want it back in a different way, which is through a refinance. And if you refinance the deal, which is to borrow more debt because you've increased the value of the building, now you get that money back tax free. And a lot of
Right.
our investors really love that because then they still own the deal. They're still getting cash flow. They got a pile of money back tax free. They don't have to go and rush and do anything with. And it helps them build longer term residual wealth.
Yeah, so I'll bet you that's where the due diligence really comes into play in picking the right person. Because I mean, if you're thinking to yourself, "Hey, I'm going to take this big old chunk of money and I'm going to put it with somebody, and I might not see anything for 5 years," well, how do you know? whether it's gone or not. 5 years later, when you go to try to get that money back, it's gone, and you're like, oh shoot, I invested with the wrong person, right?
Right. Yes, that's exactly right. You have got to get to know, and you'll know throughout the life of let me just speak for us here. I don't know how every other company does it, but you'll know where the asset is. You'll know how it's doing month by month by month by month if you tune into your emails. It
Mhm.
won't be like, hey, the money's gone and never hear from people. That shouldn't be like that. If it's like that, you definitely got scammed. Which, they can happen. Unfortunately, especially when you get in the news with these Ponzi schemes, like people that take money and then they're, doing other stuff with it, which is just absolutely unethical. So you really have to just get to know your deal sponsor, and you can call a bunch of, ideally, if the deal sponsor or the syndication firm is great, they'll let you speak to their previous investors. They'll have you speak to their previous investors. And so you can do the research. The biggest thing I would say is don't get stuck in fear. Just do the research. You don't got to put any money in. You just do the
Yeah.
research, and you'll know, but there will come a time after you do it to 3 months, 6 months, a year of research, you'll be like, I'm ready. I know this is a legit firm. I understand how these deals work. I've seen three, four, five, six of them come through the pipeline. They're all the exact same. And I'm ready to go.
Okay. So how did you get this info? Like, do you hire coaches? Do you like how do you learn all this stuff?
Yeah, so for me, I started reading a lot of basic books. There's a lot of great books you can start reading. The Rich Dad Poor Dad series with Robert Kiyosaki he's fantastic because he explains what appears to be complicated very easy. And
Yeah.
so, and if you want to read the whole book, you can throw it in a chat GPT and ask for the biggest, points that are in there and explain them to me in a sixth grade terminology, and you can see exactly what it is that he's saying. But basically, there's three, four of his books that I read that was very eye-opening to me. Read a book called Retire Young, Retire Rich. And, that book was very clear on how to create passive income. And it showed me in my mind's eye, wow, if I just do that, I can create wealth. So that was big. I also read a book by Ken McElroy called The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. He's another great syndication firm that does great deals, and is a legitimate company. And then as I started to read more books, my confidence went up and I started to see a future that I couldn't have seen before because I didn't know things. And then I
Yeah.
started to take step after step, year after year. It's something that I just really love to do as well. It's something that brings me a lot of happiness and joy. It's interesting. So if that's not you, partner with somebody who is like that. If
Yeah.
that's not just like my parents, they're just not interested, but they like to partner. They like to put money in deals, but they don't want to go find the deals and do the research and get to know all the people and manage these deals. That's the work.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? You create your team of like your tribe or whatever you want to call it, your band in my terminology of the people that you have around you, right?
Exactly. That is the best team in real estate wins. You've
Yeah.
got your brokers that are bringing you the best deals. You've got your underwriting team. You've got your insurance team. You got your property tax team. You got your property management team. You got your CPA. It goes on and on. So, that's another part that's very cool from my perspective of this business is I don't know all of these things in that level of detail. I just know enough to hire the best and let them be experts in their field. I wasn't an A student in math, but I sure hired the ACPA. That guy needs to know his math like better than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Know your strengths, play to them, right? All that stuff. So it's time for your guest solo. Tell me what's exciting in your business.
What's exciting in the business right now for us is we have done a lot of work of putting the right people in the right seats. And we hired a COO who was recently with a company when he brought him from 3,000 units to 12,000 units. And that's our 10-year goal at Granite Towers Equity Group is we're just over 3,000 units. We just closed on two deals this year, and we're heading to 12,000 units over the next decade. So what we're seeing is the right people, right seats can absolutely put gas on the fire as far as growth. And, they can build the company more efficiently than Mike and I can. This is some of these folks that we're hiring have been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years, and their
Wow.
experience is second to none. And they are sharpshooters that are really making the company move in the right direction quickly.
Cool. So what are the best types of people that would, who do you like to work with, actually? We'll say it that way.
I like to work with people who have a constant, never-ending improvement mentality.
Mm,
One that I can say has been true for me constantly is there is no limit to how good anything can be. When my snowboarding career, when I was nominated number three rider in the world and I was back-to-back X Games gold medalist, I could see another level. There was always another level.
Yeah,
In when we own 500 units to 1,000 to 2,500 to there's always another level. And so if you're going to come on our team and you're going to be working with us, I'm looking for people who are ready to read books, who are ready to level up, who are ready to adjust, who are ready to learn from their mistakes and just continually improving constantly.
love it. Love it. So, this is the hardest question of the day. Who's your favorite rock star?
Gosh, that is a really good question. Favorite rock star. Man, I would say it's probably, I mean, my brother was just really serious with Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana. And
Yeah,
so I heard it all the time. So I would say one of those, probably Kurt Cobain.
nice. He was a ultimate rock star, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, so how do we find out more about your business then?
Yeah, we have a website, just www.granitetowersequitygroup.com, and there's a contact us form. Just leave your phone number, email on there, and someone on our team will reach out and happy to hop on a call if you want to learn more. You know, it's something that I'm happy to do for anybody listening here is hop on a 15, 20-minute call, get to know where you are and what you're looking to do, or if you have no idea, at least point you in some direction to start. The biggest thing I'd say is just take baby steps. Just start. You know, if it feels overwhelming, just make the phone call and get on the phone with us to start. If it's feels overwhelming, just read one book. You know, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and just take a baby step because after you take that first step, you'll see the next step and the next step and the next step.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for rocking out with me today, Dan. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Tim, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Right on. To the listeners, this has been Dan Brisse, and you've been listening to the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. So be sure to visit workathomerockstar.com for more information, and we'll see you next time.